It looks like we're live. Hello and welcome to it's actually the first edition of this digital edition of Campus Party. My name is Ryan Maquet, and good to have you guys with me today. Or should I say tonight? I'm going to take you through a little presentation, something that's really close to my heart and something that I've been really actively involved with, call it full-time for the last 2 years. Pretty much been active in the space for the last, call it 18 years, playing computer games all the way till I was, well into my 30s, until life got real and things had to change. But through that time, I have learned quite a bit, and I think that's where I'd like to share that experience with you guys, both from multiple perspectives, in fact, as a parent, as a child, as a aspiring gamer and professional esports enthusiast, to a viewer, to a spectator, to you name it. And also large messaging towards the industry out there, both the local and global industry, be it whether you're a stakeholder and you have your own business running in the industry, if you are looking at getting involved in the industry itself, if you are perhaps what we call an endemic brand, if you are in the tech industry, so to speak, hopefully there's something that you can take away from this presentation tonight. And I don't want to kill you with the presentation. So I'm hoping that you can see the screen. I wonder if we can get confirmation of that. Yes, there we go. All right, good. So if we take a look at where it all starts, kind of the definition of esport. What is esport? You would have probably heard your kids, if you're a parent, your friends, your family, someone somewhere has talked about esports. And it's a phenomenon that's kind of taken the world by storm. And it's kind of just in the last, I think, probably 5 to 10 years, especially globally. Locally, it's been pretty active and going. But if you had to compare anything from a local to global perspective, we're a drop in the ocean comparatively. So I think we need to kind of break it down into segments. Those of you that are watching, if there are any questions, I'd appreciate any questions. Those of you that are watching this on record, you're welcome to reach out to me if you have any questions, and I'll be happy to take you up on that. So this is a quote that I really like, and it's something that I show in a lot of my pretty much every presentation when talking around esport, is a quote from Nelson Mandela about how sport has the power to change the world, and it has the power to inspire. And I think it goes without saying, many people would agree, how sport is a uniting factor amongst the globe as a whole, be it from the most destitute of countries to the most wealthy and privileged of countries that have all the latest and greatest of everything. Sport is something that everyone can really take part in, either by viewing it and or participating in it directly. So if we set the tone by that, how sport can create hope where once there was only despair. It's more powerful than government in breaking down racial barriers. And I think this is something I'm going to touch on, as well as how esport too can break down all the barriers. Doesn't matter who you are, whether you're black, white, colored, yellow, blue, doesn't matter. Big, small, thin, fat, if you're disabled, physically, mentally, there is something for everyone out there. And I think that's the beauty of esports, where I think with traditional sports, yes, there is always a traditional sport. I believe that as disabled or as one might be physically, there is something out there for anyone that truly aspires to do that. That's why I think we have the Special Olympics. But I think esports is a little different, whereby the digital medium pretty much levels the playing field. It doesn't matter if you're a 6-year-old versus an 18-year-old playing Fortnite. That person that has more skill, faster reflexes, knows the game better, whatever the case is, will win, because the digital medium levels that playing field. So if we take a look at what esports is, well, if we take a look at the definition, this is from Wiki. If you had to Google what is esports, esports is a form of sport competition using video games. esports often takes the form of organized multiplayer video game competitions, particularly between professional players, individuals, or as teams, which is cool. That's something that we've all come to know and understand and agree with, and I don't disagree with it. I just think it's evolved. And I think I'd like to take you on the journey as to why I think that, and what does that mean for us as individuals, industry, countries, government, private, public sector. What does it all mean? How does it all connect? So if we take a look, what is E in sports? If we take a look at E, which is usually the representation of electronic, much like e-learning, electronic learning, e-communication, where it's no longer just face-to-face, you're using some sort of digital electronic medium for communication purposes. And we take a look at the definition of sport. I think that's probably, one of my favorite things as to explain, like, what is sport? Like, if you had to ask anyone, how do you define, without looking at the slide, how do you define sport? Simply put, if one had to describe tennis, why is tennis a sport? Well, most sports always have, there's a point system. There are parameters. So easy to explain with tennis. You have to hit between the lines. You have to serve within the blocks. You have to serve and hit over the net. You can't hit it with your hand. So there's all these rules that govern the outcome and the goal to measure that outcome. So that's kind of sport in a nutshell. You can look at the more formal definition of that. And electronic goes without explaining, really, that it's a bunch of electronic components, such as microchips, transistors. Pretty much if you think of a computer, a laptop, a cell phone, you name it, a console, they're all put together with electric plastic components that send through electric current in ones and zeros. Without getting too technical, that's electronic. So who are these esport athletes? Who are they? People say, I'm a gamer. I play games for a living. I'm a professional gamer. I'm pro, or I try hard, or I'm the best. All right. Well, they don't look like that. Some of them do. But the majority of esport athletes don't. This is a stigmatism that I think myself, as well as many of my colleagues and peers and friends and family out there, are trying to dispel, as this is what esports looks like. This is something that one would imagine perhaps 20, 30 years ago, where this guy would probably be living in his mom's basement, drinking Mountain Dew, popping his pimples, eating crisps, and not getting up for anything, and screaming at his mother upstairs to say, "Ma, bring me my food," or "Ma, I need you to come clean my clothes," or whatever the case is. Gone are those days. There are parents today and that do feel that their kids might be like that. I'm going to address that. We'll talk about that. Parents, I know you're having a tough time out there. I'm not a parent yet, but I want to be one day, and I think I'm trying to bounce all these ideas off parents and wannabe parents about how are they going to survive with their kids, either their current situation with them because they just don't stop playing, or sure, I don't know if I want to have kids because they're a handful, blah, blah, blah. We'll get to that. So who plays? This is what I mentioned earlier about who plays esports. What is this whole thing? The great thing is that, and this is taking averages, all right, from an average age between the age of 18 and 35. Cool, fair enough. The average age of a gamer is 35. They obviously go much younger. 35 is usually, that's based on many things around affordability of buying a computer and or a phone that can play these latest and greatest games, consoles, buying the games each year. They're quite expensive, you need to kind of have the ability to have that, all that equipment and connectivity and the games and so on in order to actually partake. The beauty about it is that it's pretty much gender neutral. And without getting into too much around that, it's for everyone, all right? Doesn't matter whether you're tall, short, fat, thin, old, young, person with disabilities or special interests. There is something for everyone, and I think that's the beauty about esports as well. So what are the benefits? Now, for anyone out there, for kids especially, that kind of want to change their mindset for the parents, for their parents. Hopefully take this, don't shove this in their face like, hey ma, look at these benefits. Told you, this guy said it's good for me and I need to go pro, and I've been saying this the whole time. I need a new computer, I need a new mouse, I need a new screen, and so on. Yes, all right, that's park that idea. It's right, it's true, but there's more to it than just that. So yes, when you are looking at someone playing video games all the time, every day, all day, okay, one, yes, there is a problem. Okay, I'm not denying that. But two, I don't think many people understand and realize what is actually going on in the background of their child or friend or family member or whoever, what is going on physically and mentally when they are engaging with that digital medium, right? So if we take a look at gaming benefits, there are so many different skill sets involved. If you take a look at your persona as a based into quadrants, there's probably more, but for the purposes of this, I've put it down into 4 basic quadrants. Oh, my cat. There we go. Beauty is that I can't edit that out, and I don't care. So that was my cat. People are going to be laughing, but who cares? So, gaming benefits. There's a whole bunch of games. You get single-player games. You get games where you play within a team, either with another person and or 3, 4, 5 other people. It develops your team skills, team communication, interpersonal, and so on. Oh, thank you for that. Your personal development skills. When it comes to identity, I know there are kids out there, not everyone is built to do a specific function that their parents wish they could do, right? Kids can find their own interpersonality online within their digital world, be it a computer game and or in this case where I'm going with this conversation into more forms of electronic sport. The same thing with robotics, drones, and coding. This is something I'm also going to touch on, where I find that these topics and these genres of electronic sports need to be included under that umbrella of esports. And I'll explain why. Traditionally, esports internationally, your Americas, Europeans, Southeast Asias, Oceanias, Asia, you name it, they all consider esports as competitive video gaming. And that's fine, fair, and well. But here where we are in South Africa and within Africa, we have a lot more challenges and barriers to entry to get to the kind of numbers that would warrant this big esports stage with tens of thousands of people filling a place like Madison Square Garden. We're a long way away from that. And I think the problem is the expectation versus reality. And when it comes to investment from corporates, buy-in from leadership, be it your public sector or your private sector, people they've been burnt. And I've seen it over the years where they just don't see the value just yet. There's been tens of millions of rands put into the industry, don't get me wrong. But I think we need to start changing the narrative and start leaning towards, well, what are the intrinsic benefits? How does it touch on things like the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, the National Development Plan, the 2030 vision? How does what we're doing feed into that? Because I think that might just change the conversation a bit, which will then change the stigmatism around esports and gaming with the inclusion of other portfolios under the banner of esports, which I'll get to in a minute. So, how does esports fit into education? Well, these are just a couple and 2 more of which that I've pulled today, 4 days ago and recently just a month ago. But as you can see, South Africa, we are in a crisis at the moment. In fact, most of the world is in a crisis at the moment, but we're all kind of in that crisis together. You don't see the US with big splurging headlines like that as frequently, at least, that say we are at risk for losing jobs because we just don't have enough digitally skilled people. We don't have enough software engineers. We don't have enough web engineers. We don't have enough graphic designers. We don't have enough artificial intelligence engineers. We don't have enough this. We don't have enough that. Why? Because the skills are leaving the country. And I'm not even getting into the reasons. There are many, and most people that keep up with the news, no, I'm not even getting into that. The facts are the facts. We are in crisis. And this is not just South Africa. I guarantee you this is for the rest of Africa and many other places in the world that have some form of connection to these issues. So if you look at this and you look at that and connect it to this, this over here is the top 10 skills required compared from 2015 to 2020. This is from the World Economic Forum. Bunch of like-minded, great-minded countries, thought leaders together that are saying, this is what we need going forward. There are jobs that don't exist today that will be in the near future. For example, automation. Look at the car industry, for example. Cars used to be manually put together through a factory and an assembly line where a guy or girl said, tighten these bolts. When it gets to you, put on the lid. When it gets to you, put on the windscreen. When it gets to you, do this, do that, do that. And then at the end of the assembly line, it's done. You've got a car. Now, what do we have? We have robots to do that for us. And precision, quick, large scales of economy, right? We don't need humans to do that anymore. So that's a clear example of how we are losing jobs to machines. Cool. The great thing is that those machines need to be programmed and need to be built and need to be maintained. Okay. So you can see where I'm going with this. So the topic of today's thing was esports, far more than just a game. Now, in my experience, if you take on and believe the premise that esports, when you break it down into its E and sports definitions, we can almost take to task that these portfolio sets would fall quite easily within the realm of electronic and competitive sport, right? Chess never started electronically. It started with a wooden chessboard and marble pieces. The game Go, over 47 million people play that, predominantly in Asia, mostly in China. An amazing game that I'm actually starting to learn myself, but this is probably one of the most technical games. They are now using artificial intelligence, sidetrack. They're using artificial intelligence to build artificial intelligence using this game as its subset of input-output. And it can start creating hundreds of thousands and millions of scenarios that are never the same because the game goes so deep, all right? Without sidetracking too much. Video gaming is video gaming. With video gaming, it's across your mobile, it's across your PC, console, you name it, all right? There is your traditional video gaming, all right? The great thing about video gaming is that it's become now, one, a spectator sport, and two, it's become where you go for live events. So it's become quite an interactive, interpersonal activity to do. Robotics, we have great things like the World Robotic Olympiad and the STEM, the VEX Robotic Olympiad. So there are these great players. So the WRO, which is the World Robotic Olympiad, have Lego. All right, so Lego is getting involved in robotics. Then you have your VEX Robotics, which is another. You get many types of robotics, but those are your two top real robotic kind of partners out there that are doing things in the industry to grow their sport as an e-sport, or more so like a robotic sport. But if we had to consider it e-sport, just think about that. Drone racing. All right, drone racing is coming out there. You know how drones are coming in. They're in almost every scientific fiction film out there today. There's some sort of drone, from surveillance to shooting guns to you name it. Someone needs to be behind that. most of the time. So you'll need drone operators. Eventually, it's going to go autonomous. Like Amazon, for example, will be delivering your goods, packages within a certain kilo and range to your doorstep via drone technology. Remote control cars. This is something I've recently added, but it's been on my mind for some time now. I mean, anything that you compete with, as you can see within the remote control car track, there's a track, you need to stay within the boundaries, and that is the rules. And whoever comes first in your lap times, that's your measurement of who won, who lost, who came second, and so on. And then sim racing, we've been seeing quite a bit of that on the TV lately, where the live events are gone. So in the face of COVID will come and go, hopefully. But what we're starting to see now is the melting pot between the virtual and the physical. So think FIFA, think soccer, think FIFA 20 PlayStation or Xbox, right? People are now doing this all together, where you're getting real races versus esport races. They've never been inside a real Formula One car, but they can still give Button or whoever a run for his money. And that's pretty much a start at how do we start changing the conversation around esports as a whole, within industry, within country. Which brings to the question, how do we bridge that gap? What does that mean? Well, let's take a look if we can identify those gaps, all right? So what are the gaps? All right, I've done this on purpose where we'll go through it, but what do you think these gaps are? I don't know if anyone is in chat. I don't want to take up too much time waiting for it, but let's see what we have. Even cat gamers, yes. I'm looking at the chats now, so I'll give you a chance to quickly figure out what do you think these gaps are? This top one, the left, and the right. Okay. Well, I'll tell you the first one. Let's see. I don't know. There's probably a delay here. No? Okay. I don't want to take up too much of my time because I want to kind of get through this. Anything? Chat is here. Yeah, I'm looking at the chat. Shani. Okay, I'm going to go through it. Enough messing around. At least you've thought about it. Okay, so next up. The first gap, doesn't matter where, I'll tell you where, is parents. Where is our gap right now? Well, parents are kind of a gap. Why? They don't understand. Unless they are a gamer and they have a child, which most likely means they are probably between the age of themselves, between, I don't know, 20 and 35, which means their child is probably an infant, or between the age, if a lot of those parents are now my age, 35, I know some people that have kids that are already 12 years old, 8 years old, 10 years old. So between whatever, call it 5 and 15 years old, okay? They themselves never played games. Most of them didn't. It was a nerdy thing to do. It just wasn't cool. It's still probably thought they were by many people. They just like, I just don't get it. Why? What? It's here. It's people are now getting paid millions and millions of dollars internationally, not locally, to play their craft, play their game, do their thing. All right. And they are worshipped like gods, like rock stars and celebrities and TV stars and movie stars and so on. All right. Here's some tips for the parents out there. All right. 1, you need to embrace the fact that your kid plays games. All right. It's not going away. Gaming is not going away. They are not going to get bored of games. Games have been designed specifically not to do that. They are addictive. That's a big conversation to be had, and I'm happy to have a conversation with anyone about the addiction of gaming. Sure, it's a real thing, and it needs to be addressed, and I'm here to address it as well, just not now. There's no time for that now. You need to get involved, meaning, what is your kid playing? What game is it? What genre is it? Is it a shooting game? Is it a strategy game? Is it a massive multiplayer online? Do you even know what that is? You need to get involved so that you understand what it is. All right. You need to identify, is your kid any good? If they are good, what would you do if they were playing a real sport? Let's call it traditional sport, like rugby, soccer, tennis. What would you do? Talking about embracing, you would say, go swim. Just do it. All right? Love it. Go play rugby. Yes, my boy. Yes, my girl. Go play netball. Go play hockey. Get involved. Well, you've seen it, parents at the fields watching their kids and shouting and screaming and getting into fist fights with some parents. It happens. I haven't seen it, but I know it does happen. Identify. Nurture. You need to think, well, you've identified that your kid might have talent. All you've seen is that they play games all day. But have you even thought, maybe they're pretty good at this? What if they are pretty good at this? What do I do? Who do I speak to? You obviously speak to them, but you need to nurture it. So you need to, again, go back to the questions. Hey, do you want to take this more seriously maybe? Yeah, like I'm pretty serious. I play quite a lot. Yeah, I know you play for many hours of the day, but what else? Well, get them a coach maybe, as you would a real sport. Balance. You'll never hear a parent say that their kid plays too much rugby or their kid plays too much hockey or swimming or this or that. Why? Because in their head, it's active, it's outdoors, it's cool. But you'll never hear those parents say, hey, stop playing rugby, stop swimming, go inside and watch TV. You'll never hear a parent say that. But when it comes to games, it's stop playing. Go outside, play with your friends, play with a ball, do anything other than playing games. Balance. This is where it comes down to balance. Balance, I don't need to explain. Balance, like anything, is good. You need to have balance. Encourage. You need to get them involved in something outside of their room. Like, hey, do you have friends that you play with? Are you on a team? Are you involved in any competitions? If not, why not? Does your school offer it? Maybe you can play for the school. You don't play any sports. You come home after school and you just sit and play games all day and you don't do your homework. Again, balance. Do your homework and then you can play as much games as you want. Or do your homework, play some games or practice, right, during your practice time because you have a match later tonight or later today against that school or against that team. Encourage to actually get some structure into that lifestyle. Manage. And then you obviously got to manage all of that as a parent as you would anything else. Moving on. I don't have much time. So parent is one of the gaps. The next gap is the industry. Okay. The industry, I can go in forever about this, but this is almost a call to action framework of what needs to happen within industry in order for the stuff to grow locally here. And how does it connect into the into the rest of the world? How do we connect our world, the African continent, with the rest of the world, the globe? Or to some that believe the earth is flat, to the flat earth. That's no joke, by the way. So we have industry. How do we rally industry? Well, I know this, if you're a 14-year-old and you're looking at this is like, okay, dude, what are you on about? Like, where are the games? What are you talking about? Okay, so this is the important part here as well for us to bring you more games, to bring you more competitions, to bring you more stuff, to feed your desire, passion, hobby, whatever. We need this in place and working in order to execute and to get this on the right-hand side here, where we take a look at the games, the brands, the sponsorships, the this, the that, the Twitch streams, you name it. We need that in place. And this is a good starting point. This is a good reference to design a framework for local industry and brands to build a strategy to get ROI, and that's the big word, ROI, return of investment. This has probably been the biggest pain point since going full-time into this industry, is me explaining to brands, all right, so what's the ROI? Okay, well, that all brands care about, for example, clear example, sorry for pointing anyone out, but let's just use a well-known retailer like Incredible Connection or a Matrix Warehouse or an Eve Tech or a whoever, you get my drift. All they care about are sales. If they put in 10,000 Rand into a prize pool for a competition, they're expecting that the people that participate and that see that competition are then going to go buy their next component or thing that is responsible for selling it. Like in Incredible Connection, you can buy printers, laptops, cables, you name it, software, hardware, everything, anything computer stuff, you can go buy there. So they expect you to walk in and buy, but they don't. Why? Because the expectation, all right, is not met. High expectation versus reality. Reality is, when it comes to viewers, 90% of the people are Russian. No jokes. If a game is put online and it's bet and it's put on a betting site like CSGO Lounge or whatever the case is, or any kind of betting site like GG.bet or whatever, most people that are betting are going to be the Russians. Those are going to be the viewerships to see whether they won. So, moving on quickly, I can talk about this for days. What is the gap? So we have industry. Where's the final gap? Where is the final gap? Leadership. Leadership. I consider myself a leader. There are other people that I respect out there. You know who you are. Those of you that watch this, you are leaders too. So my question is, what are we doing? What are we doing to bridge the gap, to defragment the industry, to get people out of working in silos, and to come together? Sounds cliche, but to come together as one and say, how can we build this industry together so that we can get global? Well, we need to think local. Where are we? We are in Africa. Esports is a white male-dominated sport. Fact. Why would, and this is, I used to work for Intel Corporation for 9 years. I had people coming up to me, hey, Ryan, please sponsor us this, please sponsor us that. What's the return of investment? Again, always comes down to that. Well, what do you want, firstly? No, we want CPUs, we want prize, we want money, we want this, that, the other, hardware, whatever you can spare us. But obviously, that's grown now. Now, the gamers are so privileged that they're getting shots at a 1 million Rand prize pool and a 500,000 Rand prize pool and a 100,000 Rand prize pool. I remember back in my day, playing for a hard drive, playing for a medal, seeing my friends. That's what esports was about back in the day. Now it's glorified with 1 million Rand, 100,000 Rand. It's in the newspaper the one day, it's out the next. Who cares? It's done. You've just wasted your sponsor's money. For example, a simple example. If someone, let's say, whatever, a Samsung sponsors 100,000 Rand to a tournament. Do you know how many phones they need to sell to make up that 100,000 Rand? Do you think the gamers watching and playing, the same white guys that are going to be playing and watching, playing and or watching, are going to go out tomorrow to go buy a new Samsung? No, but they will maybe when in their 2-year contract period runs out, maybe they'll consider buying a Samsung, but they were going to do it anyway. It's like, how do you measure that? And I don't think the leaders of today, and I'm sorry if I'm calling anyone out, I'm not, but if you'd like to have a discussion, I'm open. The leaders today are setting an expectation and not actually showing the reality. How do we change that? How do we build trust? We don't have it. We don't have it. So, what is the call to action? Parents, you need to wake up. Gaming and esports is not going anywhere, and it's not all that bad. Schools, esports is for everyone and should be introduced officially. Government, this is a solution to your sustainable development goals. The NDP, the 2030 vision. You want to build digital capacity for your fourth industrial revolution? Well, start with the basics. We've already got something going in this country. It's going. It's moving. It's suffering. No doubt it's suffering. But it's going. It's better than some other industries that I know. And guess what? This plugs into everything else. There are 17 sustainable development goals. Number 1, poverty. How do we solve poverty? Number 4, education. That, in my opinion, should be number 1. Anyway, moving on. Corporates. Your future employees and your customers are coming. Be ready. Be relevant. Be active. The local industry leaders, WTF, I asked this earlier, what are we doing to unite and grow the scene? What are we doing? I've been trying to call for some people to come together, but I've got my own things to worry about because right now we're in a crisis and we got to make money. And I've called out in the very beginning days. I called out to some people, hey, let's grow this thing together. Are you with me? I'll think about it. I'll call you back. Don't? Okay. To the global stakeholders, whether any of them are watching or not, it's not a one-size-fits-all. You can't just, like the big ESLs and dream hacks and all, that's all great, fair and well. Come here, put down your servers, put down your software, but don't charge us $2 million for rights to it. What? $2 million, 30 million Rand, call it that, 40 million Rand before you even turn on a light or build a stage or turn on a computer, hire casters, hire the gamers, prize pool money. It's ridiculous. We need to start and grow local before we start looking global into local. We'll plug in there eventually. We will plug in there eventually. One day. And with that, I'm going to say thank you. I'm going to open up to any questions. I can go on all night, but I don't think I have enough time. These are some backup slides, which I'm actually not going to get into. So I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much. If you'd like to reach out, you can always hit me up on LinkedIn, Facebook. Yeah, anything. So do we have any questions? I think I went over and I apologize, but do we have any questions? Let me see. I'll just wait a little just to see it on the live stream here. Lineary, you'll just have to figure that out. All right, I think I'm going to leave it there. Have a good evening, everyone, and thanks again. Thanks out to all the people involved at Campus Party. Awesome platform. I hope we get more active in it. And happy for anyone to engage in the future and happy to do this again at any time. Have a good night. Oh, how can kids who can't afford high costs get involved? Okay, so how do kids that can't afford? Great question. Thanks, Robert. Well, it comes down again to industry and what, instead of throwing, so here's a good example. Instead of so we're trying to meet international expectations. And what usually does that mean? That means that there's $1 million prize pool, or it's a $3 million prize pool, or a $100,000 prize pool. Instead of taking that money and throwing it all at the same people at once, locally I'm talking about, we could start setting up hubs. So we have 9 provinces in this country. We have telecommunication companies. They are actually one of the big key players in esports, but in my opinion, they're not playing an active role. They're not. They're not listening. They pretend to, but their execution of it is either they listen and then go with something else, or they know something better, so they do something. It doesn't matter. They are a key player. But clear example, MTN, Vodacom, Telkom. They all have these community centers. They're actually training centers all around the country. I think Vodacom have over 100 and they have close to 200. Telkom have over close to 200 of these centers. MTN also have close to whatever, I think it is 150. These are centers with brick and mortar, running water, electricity, connectivity, hardware, management staff, security. So they have all the tick boxes of a venue to enable digital access. Now, what if we had to get an AESA or a Dell or a Lenovo or an HP, or spread it out amongst all of them, not just one, together, and say, let us activate province by province, circuit by circuit, district by district. Like that one picture I showed of how schools, ICT centers, how you start off with small circuit, district, province, national, and then they can interconnect, right? So how does it, they'll never be able to afford it. There needs to be a free pay-to-play system, but that's done through CSI, that's done through corporate investment, it's done through sponsorship, it's done through private investment, so that one can start growing that base. If government can do it, they can do it. But can our government do it? No. Why? Because there are bigger issues than giving some kids access to gaming, right? There's poverty. There's equal rights and access to this and access to sanitation and decency and living conditions and housing and agriculture and all of these things. So there's so many important things out there that money could rather go to spend. But is it sustainable? No, it's not. They're called sustainable development goals, but I don't know how nutrition and feeding schemes are solving the problem. Yes, in the short term, give a person a fish, they'll eat for a day, but give them a rod, they can eat for life, something like that. So how do you get involved? You corporate leaders out there need to wake up and start talking to the right people, including, I'm one of them. I believe I am. I know many other people that I can vouch for, some people that know me very well and that maybe don't like me very much, but those people too. There are people out there that can give you good advice. Some of them will give you bad advice, but we need to start somewhere. Where we've started is good. Could it have been better? Yes, a lot better. So it comes down to corporate investment, social investment, tax. Yeah. Any other questions? Correct. Mobile gaming is also affordable to a large degree. I'm going to leave it there. I think I've really gone over now. Hopefully we can edit this. I wonder how it turns out. Have a good night, guys. I'm out. If you want more of this kind of